You're sitting there at 2 a.m., going through your phone trying to figure out where it all went wrong. She said she loved you yesterday, but today she's cold as ice. She demands respect, but undermines you constantly. She wants you to lead, but fights every decision you make. You're not crazy. You're just dealing with someone who's fundamentally broken. Let me tell you exactly when it's time to walk away and why staying will destroy you. The first red flag most men miss is the fatherless upbringing pattern. Now, I'm not saying every woman without a strong father figure is damaged, but there's a pattern you need to recognize. When someone grows up without that masculine stability, they often develop this need to control everything. It's not even conscious. They equate being in charge with being safe. Vulnerability feels like danger to them, so they'll fight for dominance in every interaction. I had a client whose girlfriend grew up with a single mother. Every time he made a decision where to eat, what movie to watch, how to spend the weekend, she'd challenge it. Not because she disagreed, but because letting him lead triggered something deep inside her. She'd literally tell him, "Be a man," while simultaneously crushing every attempt at leadership he made. That's not a relationship. That's a power struggle disguised as love. Here's the thing about power struggles in modern relationships. They're exhausting and pointless. Some people want the aesthetic of having a strong partner while maintaining complete control. They'll say things like, "I want a real man who takes charge," but the moment you take charge, they rebel. It's hypocrisy at its finest. They want verbal respect without behavioral respect. They want you to look like a leader while they hold all the actual power. The equality conversation has been completely distorted. Equality should mean cooperation, two people working together toward shared goals. But for some, it's become competition. Everything becomes a battleground. Who makes more money? Who does more housework? Who sacrificed more? Instead of building together, you're keeping score. When equality turns into rebellion against any form of masculine leadership, the emotional connection dies. I see this constantly with career-focused individuals who can't turn it off at home. They're CEOs at work and want to be CEOs in their relationship too. Professional achievement becomes armor against intimacy. They'll prioritize a meaningless meeting over quality time, then wonder why there's no connection. Success at work doesn't translate to success in love, but some people never learn this distinction. The inconsistency pattern is particularly maddening. Monday, they love you and can't imagine life without you. Tuesday, they're questioning everything about the relationship. Wednesday, they want to move in together. Thursday, they need space. This isn't normal relationship uncertainty. It's emotional chaos. Their words change with their moods, and their moods change with the wind. You can't build anything stable with someone whose foundation keeps shifting. Here's a mistake I see constantly. The man initiates contact after a breakup or fight. The moment you do this, you lose all authority in the dynamic. When someone walks away and you chase, you're communicating that their presence is more valuable than your dignity. Attraction requires some level of respect, and nobody respects someone they can walk all over. The person who cares less controls the relationship. That's not how it should be, but it's how it is with toxic dynamics. The double standards will drive you insane if you let them. They expect absolute accountability from you while excusing their own contradictions. You're 5 minutes late. Disrespectful. They're an hour late. You're controlling for even mentioning it. You forget something, you don't care, they forget. You should have reminded them. It's a game where the rules only apply to you and they change whenever convenient. Some people don't communicate. They litigate. Every conversation becomes a debate they need to win. They'll twist your words, bring up irrelevant past events, deflect blame, and construct elaborate arguments to avoid simple truths. You'll say, "I feel hurt when you do X," and suddenly you're defending something you said 3 years ago. This isn't communication, it's manipulation. They're not trying to understand you, they're trying to defeat you. The illusion problem is when someone has constructed a fantasy version of themselves that doesn't match reality. They see themselves as the perfect partner while displaying toxic behaviors daily. Anyone who challenges this delusion becomes the enemy. They're not in love with you. They're in love with the story they've created where they're always the hero and you're either the supporting character or the villain, depending on the day. Pay attention to the power grab dynamic. When someone feels they have complete control over you, their attraction dies. Desire requires tension, mystery, some element of unpredictability. But once they know you'll tolerate anything, once they're certain you won't leave, the chemistry evaporates. They might stay for comfort or convenience, but the genuine attraction is gone. You become furniture, useful, but not exciting. After breakups, their behavior isn't guided by logic, but by momentary feelings. One day they miss you desperately, the next they hate you. These aren't calculated moves, they're emotional reactions without any consistency. They'll send long apology texts at 3 a.m., then block you by noon. This isn't love. It's emotional instability playing out in real time. The biochemical shift after infidelity is something most people don't understand. When someone becomes intimate with another person, there's an actual chemical bonding that occurs. Suddenly, their emotional loyalty shifts. That instant detachment you feel, it's not just psychological, it's biological. Their body has literally bonded to someone else, and no amount of conversation will change that chemistry. Modern society has normalized weak responses to betrayal. People treat emotional violations like minor inconveniences. Everyone makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. This isn't about perfection. It's about respect. When you tolerate betrayal, you're teaching them that your boundaries are suggestions, not requirements. A strong response to disrespect isn't toxic. It's necessary for maintaining any sense of self-worth. Both partners can become addicted to the dysfunction cycle, the ignoring, the chasing, the dramatic reconciliation. It creates dopamine hits that become addictive. You're not in love anymore. You're chemically dependent on the emotional roller coaster. Real love is stable and secure. If you need constant drama to feel connected, that's not love. That's addiction. Healthy individuals have what I call moral fuses, internal stops that prevent them from crossing certain lines. But some people lack these completely. They don't stop themselves from flirting because it feels wrong. They only stop if they might get caught. Without internal moral restraint, betrayal isn't a possibility. It's an inevitability waiting for the right opportunity. If someone repeatedly contradicts themselves, lies about small things, or constantly rewrites history, they cannot be trusted. This isn't about one mistake or misunderstanding, it's about patterns. When someone shows you they're comfortable with deception, believe them. Ignoring them might change their behavior temporarily, but it doesn't change their character. People often unconsciously repeat their parents' relationship patterns. If their mother was manipulative or created conflict for attention, they'll likely do the same. It's not intentional. It's programmed. They're playing a script they learned in childhood. Understanding this doesn't mean accepting it. You're not their therapist, and you can't heal their childhood wounds. Some individuals only feel alive through crisis. Stability feels like death to them. They'll manufacture problems, start fights, create drama. Anything to generate that emotional intensity they crave. They're not trying to solve problems, they're trying to create them. Peace makes them anxious. Calm makes them restless. They need chaos like others need air. Watch for the projection pattern. When they cause problems, they'll position themselves as the victim. You become the aggressive one for setting boundaries. You're controlling for expecting consistency. You're abusive for not accepting their chaos. It's a complete reversal where the person causing harm paints themselves as the one being harmed. Logic doesn't work during emotional storms. You can't reason with someone who's operating purely on feelings and defensive narratives. It's like trying to solve a math problem with poetry. You're using the wrong tool for the job. When someone is in emotional chaos, your logical explanations just become more ammunition for their victimhood story. The caretaker trap is when you become responsible for managing their emotions. You're constantly apologizing, explaining, fixing their moods. But here's what happens. You stop being their partner and become their emotional janitor. And nobody is attracted to their janitor. The more you try to fix them, the less they respect you. The more you accommodate their chaos, the more chaotic they become. Some people were raised to believe the world should accommodate their feelings. When reality doesn't match this expectation, they don't adjust their expectations. They punish reality. They'll emotionally punish you for not reading their mind, for not anticipating their needs, for not managing their emotions for them. It's entitlement masquerading as emotional needs. The paradox of ignoring unstable individuals is that it can make them obsess over you, not from love, but from addiction to the chaos. They're not thinking about you fondly. They're craving the dopamine hit of conflict and resolution. You become their drug, not their beloved. They'll pursue you relentlessly. But it's not romance. It's addiction seeking its fix. Many relationships unconsciously recreate childhood dynamics. You become a stand-in for their father, and they're replaying unresolved conflicts from decades ago. You're not having an argument about dinner plans. You're having their parents' argument from 1987. You can't win a fight that started before you met them. In toxic dynamics, whoever shows emotional detachment first gains control. Being offended becomes a power move, not a genuine feeling. It's strategic emotional manipulation. I'm hurt means now you have to chase me. I need space means now you have to prove your love. Every emotional expression becomes a tactical maneuver in a war for control. The seesaw dynamic creates artificial dependence. When you pursue, they pull away. When you retreat, they pursue. Interest only exists in the gap between you. It's not love. It's a psychological pattern where attraction requires distance. The moment you're fully present, they lose interest. The moment you're gone, they suddenly care. Ignoring someone might regain their attention, but it cannot restore trust or create genuine connection. Some people mistake absence for affection and conflict for passion. They think the intensity of the chase means love, but it's just activation of their abandonment wounds. You can't build a healthy relationship on a foundation of emotional manipulation. Emotional illiteracy is when someone confuses intensity with intimacy. They think if there's no drama, there's no connection. Fighting feels like passion to them. Chaos feels like chemistry. They'll create problems just to feel something because they never learned what healthy love actually feels like. They're emotionally colorblind, unable to see the full spectrum of genuine connection. The biggest mistake is trying to find logic in fundamentally illogical behavior. You're looking for reasons where there are only reactions. You're seeking patterns in chaos. You're trying to understand what can't be understood because it doesn't come from thought. It comes from damage. Stop trying to make sense of senselessness. Some people are simply incompatible with stable relationships. It's not your job to fix them, heal them, or teach them how to love. Your job is to recognize the patterns and protect yourself. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't teach someone who refuses to learn. You can't love someone into mental health. Here's how you know it's time to leave. When you're spending more energy managing their emotions than living your life. When every day feels like diffusing a bomb. When you can't remember the last time you felt peaceful in your own home. When you're walking on eggshells in your own relationship. When their presence brings anxiety, not comfort. The clarity moment comes when you realize you're not in a relationship. You're in a psychological battlefield. Every interaction is strategic. Every conversation is a potential fight. Every moment of peace is just the calm before the next storm. That's not love. That's warfare. And you can't win a war against someone who's fighting themselves. The boundaries conversation is simple. You need them. And toxic people will always violate them. Not occasionally, not accidentally, consistently, and deliberately. They'll test every limit, push every boundary, and then blame you for having them. A person who can't respect your boundaries can't respect you. And someone who can't respect you can't love you. The self-respect component is crucial. Every time you accept unacceptable behavior, you're telling yourself you're worth less than peace. Every time you tolerate intolerable treatment, you're agreeing that this is what you deserve. It's not just about them disrespecting you. It's about you disrespecting yourself by staying. Power in relationship shouldn't be about control. It should be about mutual respect and contribution. But when you're with someone who sees relationships as power struggles, you have two choices: engage in the war or walk away. Fighting just feeds the dysfunction. Walking away is the only victory possible. The detachment process isn't about being cold or cruel. It's about self-preservation. You're not abandoning them. You're saving yourself. You're not giving up. You're choosing peace. You're not weak for leaving. You're strong for recognizing what needs to be done. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both of you is leave. Clear communication of your exit is important. Not to convince them or get closure. Those are fantasies. But to be clear with yourself about why you're leaving. Write it down if you need to. I'm leaving because this relationship has become destructive to my mental health. Simple, clear, non-negotiable. The refusal to negotiate with chaos is your superpower. You don't need to explain why their behavior is unacceptable. It just is. You don't need to justify wanting peace. It's a basic human need. You don't need permission to protect your sanity. It's your fundamental right. Here's what happens when you leave. They'll cycle through every emotion possible. Love bombing, anger, bargaining, threats, promises of change, this isn't genuine transformation. It's panic at losing control. The person who couldn't be bothered to treat you right suddenly can't live without you. Don't fall for it. It's not love. It's desperation to maintain the status quo. The promises of change are particularly seductive. I'll go to therapy. I understand now. I'll never do it again. But real change takes years of consistent work, not desperate promises made in fear of abandonment. Anyone can promise change. Few actually do the work. And you're not obligated to wait around to see which category they fall into. The societal pressure to work things out is intense. People will tell you relationships take work and nobody's perfect. True, but there's a difference between normal relationship challenges and toxic dysfunction. Working on communication is healthy. Working on surviving emotional abuse is not know the difference. The friends and family interference can be overwhelming. They'll have opinions, advice, judgments, but they're not living your reality. They don't wake up to the chaos. They don't feel the anxiety. They don't carry the emotional burden. Your decision has to be based on your experience, not their opinions. The financial entanglement excuse keeps many people trapped. We have a lease together. We share accounts. It's too complicated to leave. But what's the price of your sanity? What's the cost of your peace? Money can be sorted out. Mental health damage is harder to repair. Don't let logistics trap you in psychological torture. The children consideration is serious, but often misunderstood. Staying for the kids in a toxic relationship doesn't help them. It teaches them that this is what love looks like. They're learning relationship patterns from watching you. What do you want them to learn? That love means suffering, or that self-respect means leaving destructive situations? The loneliness fear keeps people in bad relationships. What if I don't find anyone else? What if this is as good as it gets? But being alone and peaceful is infinitely better than being coupled and chaotic. Loneliness is temporary. The damage from staying in toxic relationships can be permanent. The sunk cost fallacy is powerful. We've been together 5 years. I've invested so much, but time invested in dysfunction doesn't turn it into function. You're not getting those years back by staying. You're just adding more wasted years to the pile. Cut your losses. The moment of clarity usually comes during a period of peace, when you're away from them, even briefly, and you feel your shoulders relax, when you realize you've been holding your breath for months, when you remember what it feels like to not be anxious. That contrast shows you exactly what this relationship has been doing to you. The recovery period after leaving is intense. You'll doubt yourself, miss them, and remember only the good times. This is normal. Your brain is literally detoxing from the emotional chaos addiction. Stay strong. The clarity will come, and when it does, you'll wonder why you stayed so long. The pattern recognition skill you develop is invaluable. Once you've been through this, you can spot the red flags earlier. You understand the patterns, the tactics, the emotional manipulation strategies. You become immunized against future toxic relationships. This painful experience becomes your protection. The rebuilding phase is where you rediscover yourself. You remember what you enjoyed before the chaos. You reconnect with friends you'd isolated from. You pursue interests you'd abandoned. You realize how much of yourself you'd given up trying to manage someone else's dysfunction. The standards elevation is natural and necessary. After experiencing chaos, you value peace differently. After tolerating disrespect, you appreciate respect more. Your standards aren't too high. They're finally appropriate. Don't let anyone convince you to lower them again. The future relationship approach changes completely. You're no longer looking for intensity and drama. You're seeking peace, stability, mutual respect. You understand that real love is calm, consistent, and secure. It doesn't require constant crisis management. It doesn't demand you sacrifice your sanity. The inherited toxicity patterns run deep. In some families, you might notice their mother had the same chaotic relationships, the same emotional instability, the same manipulation tactics. Generational trauma gets passed down like a family heirloom nobody wants. Their grandmother probably drove their grandfather crazy the same way they're driving you crazy now. These patterns are ancient, embedded in family DNA. You're not just fighting their issues, or you're fighting 3 generations of dysfunction. The narcissistic adaptation is real. Some people develop these patterns not from trauma, but from being treated like royalty as children. Every tantrum was accommodated, every demand was met, every feeling was validated as fact. They learned that the world should bend to their emotions. Now they expect you to provide the same unconditional accommodation their parents did. But you're not their parent, and they're not a child anymore. The false urgency they create around every issue is exhausting. Everything is an emergency. Every feeling is critical. Every need is immediate. They can't differentiate between genuine crises and minor inconveniences. This constant state of alert burns out your nervous system. You're living in perpetual fight or flight mode, which literally damages your brain over time. The stress hormones flooding your system daily are aging you prematurely. Here's the ultimate truth. You can't build a healthy relationship with an unhealthy person. You can't create stability with someone committed to chaos. You can't find peace with someone addicted to war. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both of you is walk away. The decision framework is simple. Does this relationship add to your life or subtract from it? Do you feel better or worse than before you met them? Are you growing or shrinking? Are you becoming more yourself or losing yourself? The answers tell you everything you need to know. The action step is clear, but not easy. If you recognize these patterns, if you're exhausted from the chaos, if you've tried everything and nothing changes, it's time to go. Not next month, not after the holidays, not when it's convenient, now. Because every day you stay is another day of damage you'll need to heal from. Your responsibility is to yourself first. You can't save someone who's drowning by drowning with them. You can't heal someone's wounds by letting them wound you. You can't fix someone's chaos by sacrificing your peace. Your first responsibility is to protect your own mental health and well-being. The final message is this: leaving doesn't make you weak, selfish, or a failure. It makes you someone who values their own well-being enough to protect it. It makes you someone who refuses to accept the unacceptable. It makes you someone who chooses peace over chaos, even when it's hard. You deserve a relationship that brings joy, not anxiety. You deserve a partner who adds to your peace, not destroys it. You deserve love that feels safe, not dangerous. And if your current relationship doesn't provide that, you deserve to leave and find something better. The strength to leave comes from understanding that you're not abandoning them. You're choosing yourself. You're not giving up on love. You're giving up on dysfunction. You're not weak for walking away. You're strong for recognizing what needs to be done and doing it. I want to hear from you. What patterns did you recognize in your own relationship? What was your moment of clarity? What finally gave you the strength to leave? Or what's keeping you stuck? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes, seeing others who've walked this path helps us find the courage to take the first step ourselves.